to say, in listening to the charges from the judge, who's, as you know, very conflicted and corrupt, because of the confliction, very, very corrupt. Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. These charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged. The whole country's a mess between the borders and fake elections, and you have a trial like this where the judge is so conflicted he can't breathe. He's got to do his job, and it's not for me, that I can tell you. It's a disgrace, and I mean that. Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do. It's a very disgraceful situation. Every single legal scholar and expert said this is no case, it shouldn't be brought, and it certainly could have been brought 7 years ago, not in the middle of a presidential election. It was all done by Joe Biden. This judge contributed to Joe Biden, and far worse than that, but I'm not allowed to talk about it because I have a gag order. Far worse than that, by 1,000 times worse than that. The worst I've ever heard, but I can't talk about it. It'll be talked about, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. But it'll be talked about in the history books. What's happening here is weaponization at a level that nobody's seen before, ever. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen. So I'll stay around here. This is 5 weeks. And 5 weeks of really essentially not campaigning, although I took a big lead in the polls over the last few weeks. Something's going on. Because I think the people of this country see that this is a rigged deal. It's a weaponized deal for the Democrats to hit their political opponent. For Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States. He's destroying our country. He's letting millions of people from jails, from prisons, from insane asylums, from mental institutions, drug dealers pour in. Venezuela, if you look at their crime statistics, they've gone down 72% in crime because they're releasing all their criminals into our country because of this horrible...
This is the stuff he needs to be saying. He could have done this like a million times more too. This is the stuff that he needs to do. He needs to come out and say this, like, as he's hitting everything else, he needs to make sure he drives the point back to really, what Democrats don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the border. So talk about the border. You got all the press there. So the jury is deliberating. They've been given instructions by the judge, and they are deliberating. So we could have a decision today. We could also not have one today. We don't know. So we're going to just go with it and see what happens. Welcome to the program. Dana Loesch with you, top of this very first hour. And this, of course, is the first. Now we finally got some movement. I don't cover it exhaustively. I only cover and bring you things as it happens, if it's a huge development, etc. Because so many people talk about it endlessly. I don't want to drown you in it because you're getting hit from all sides with constant coverage. So this, though, is significant because now you got the jury deliberating. And this is a weird case because out of all the cases I have maintained, out of all of the cases, the one that you could have gotten him on, is Mar-a-Lago. Because that had to do with the federal statute that regulated the possession and declassification, the moving of classified documents. But they screwed that case up so bad. This one was ridiculous. And that's why you see certain people, because of the precedent this could potentially establish. That's why you see even Democrats who have enough sense to see into the future. That's why you have Democrats even coming out going, whoa, wait a minute. Because they're looking at it like, how is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect what I do? How is it going to affect me campaigning? And to recap, briefly, this is the case specifically that had to do with the hush money paid to Stormy Daniels. Now, yes, you might find yourself saying, well, this is why you don't screw around on your pregnant wife with a cheap, chonky stripper or whatever the hell she was. But that's not what's being discussed here. This is when you got to get really clinical and surgical. Is it illegal to give a skank money to shut her up? No, it's not. It's not illegal. You may not like it. That doesn't make it violation of the law. End of. Now, New York is funny because they're like, well, yes, you can give money to your chonky escort stripper mistress, and you can give her money to shut her up. But what you can't do is put it down wrong in the books. But yet, that's what and even if that had happened, that would be a misdemeanor. But what Alvin Bragg and these other prosecutors, and remember there were other prosecutors in New York for years that did not want to pursue this because they said this is stupid. It's a misdemeanor at best, and it would be difficult to litigate because of that. Well, Alvin Bragg's got something to prove. These Democrats up there got something to prove. And so they were the ones who are like, yeah, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead because there's a weird law in New York wherein if you committed a crime to hide another crime, then that other crime, that the presence of that can elevate the whole thing up to a felony, right? That's where they are. That can all be elevated up to a felony. The problem, though, in this case, and I read the indictment, and we talked about it when it happened, is that they never actually said what he did. What was the other crime? Kane, did they ever actually say that?
No.
They never came back and said it.
No.
They're like, well, he committed this crime to hide the other crime. Wait a minute, what? Oh, yes. If you commit that crime because you're hiding another crime, that too makes them felonies.
What crime again?
Well, what was the other crime? Well, it was just a crime. That's all you need to know. A crime.
That sounds bad.
I know, right? They made it sound like he chopped up people and hid them under a bed somewhere. I don't know. They never actually got into it. That's why everyone's like, even Andy McCarthy, God love him, he's on occasionally. Andy McCarthy is a very clinical, highly respected former assistant U.S. attorney, right? And very well, he was in the Blind Shake trial. He was involved, the first World Trade Center bombing, he was involved in putting that guy away. He was involved in all that stuff. Very well respected. Some people previously have gotten angry at Andy because he doesn't seem like he's hardcore MAGA, right? He doesn't seem like he's a hardcore Trumpian. He is just very logical. When you even have Andy McCarthy out there going, this is nuts, that should be red flags for everybody. When you have him out there going, well, this is too, what's the other crime? And that's the problem with this. They never actually said what it was. So this crime is actually, it's a straw man of epic proportions. This could be used to teach bad law to law students for eons. It is a classic case. It is a political witch hunt. You don't have to love you some Trump to acknowledge this. What you have to love is the letter of the law, and equality before the law and equality under the law once it's broken. It doesn't matter what your position of Trump is. If your position of a politician is fueling your biased interpretation of how the law should be applied, you have something broken in you. You are so beyond reason and thought. You should be excluded from the human population at large until you come to your senses, in case your ignorance is catching. I find that so incredibly dangerous when I see people pervert the law. This is one of the reasons why I hate DEI and everything else. When you allow your zealous bias to pervert something, the strength of which is measured by its purity, that is a major problem. And the law is part of this, like science is part of it. So when you allow your zealous opposition to a singular politician pervert your interpretation of law and its application, you endanger the republic this way. You are the problem more than anyone you would ever criticize. That is what the issue is here. There have been some on the left that have at least been smart enough to see, oh, wait a minute. Because they fully realize, as I've told you before, God forbid you get someone like me. You think Trump's bad. Oh, I'm a purist, right? I'm a purist. Like, I won't move. I will move all of my opposition. I would suck the life out of the swamp for generations. Oh, no, I wouldn't just go after them. I'd go after everyone they know. That's where I'm like Gladriel with the One Ring. God forbid you get somebody like me in office. Democrats are aware of this. They're like, oh, my gosh, what if someone like this woman were ever to get in office? Can you imagine? How ghoulish. Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, I would weaponize every agency. I would go after you. I'd be under your beds. I would be spying. Oh, I would. I freely admit it, unlike everybody else. Democrats are aware of this, which is why they're like, can you guys not do this right now? We understand you don't like Trump. That's fine. Can you not go this crazy on this? Because you are opening up a door that you will never close. And those people are right. They are correct. And so this is where we stand right now. I mean, it's really dumb to set up your opposition in such a way and give them the power to do this. It's really dumb. And so I don't know what the decision's going to be. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. But I do think that if there's any sense in that jury box, and I think they said there's 2 attorneys that are in the jury pool that are in this amongst the jurors. I think they said there were 2 attorneys. Hopefully, I don't know. I keep hearing all kinds of stuff. Well, what the judge instructed the jury to believe, et cetera, or what they had said. There was apparently one where they were saying that they have to be unanimous about the falsification of records because remember the accusation was the records were falsified in order to assist in the commission of another crime. But the rule under New York law is you don't have to be unanimous in your decision as to what the other crime was. Hell, apparently you don't even have to identify the other crime. That's kind of wild, isn't it? Especially when, at 7 years, no one ever went after this. So the thing that, by the way, Kane, the thing that you're putting in there is not exactly correct. The 4-4-4 split, the problem is it's the New York law. Jury was not instructed that they didn't have to be unanimous on whether or not there was a crime. They don't have to be unanimous on whether or not, on what the other crime was that it was done in commission of. Which goes back, Kane, to my original point. If you don't even tell them what the hell the crime was, well, how the hell can they even be unanimous on what do you see my whole point in this? Yeah. That's right. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that was just a Jonathan Turley tweet that I threw your way.
Well, there's still, I get that it's a 4-4-4 split, but they don't, under New York law, because he has a whole column on this, under New York law, they don't have to be unanimous on what the other crime was. Now, Kane, let me ask you a question. You're a juror. You're sitting in that box, and the judge is like, all right, Mr. Juror.
Yep.
You have to be unanimous that a crime was committed. Now, remember, the severity of the crime being elevated to a felony is dependent upon that it was in commission of another crime, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we don't even have to tell you really that we're kind of going to touch on the fact that another crime was committed, but we're not actually going to tell you what it was or anything else.
But I'm supposed to base my decision?
No, you can't. No. That's irrelevant.
What?
That's irrelevant. Just on this one record-keeping thing, that's it. Even though the whole purpose of you being here is the presence of another accusation of a crime.
Yeah, so
yeah, but no. You can't include that in there.
But I'd need
Nope,
to know.
you can't.
But I have
Nope.
to.
That's what the jurors are being told.